is today?
Fifth.
Today is Monday, February 5th. We are officially in session. Board of Commissioners are in session. We have Mr. Wright present. We have Mr. Bardsley present and myself. Commissioner Bardsley will lead us in prayer, and then Commissioner Wright will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, and we'll get started. Please rise.
Would you bow your heads with me in an attitude of prayer? Gracious God, Heavenly Father, as we take these moments together, we're grateful for the opportunity to be assembled as leaders and a community together. We pray that you will grant us your grace and strength. So many things have been happening in our local communities, and we ask for your anointing, your wisdom, for those that are going through great distress and difficulty, losing homes, and the fires in our communities. We pray that you'll be with those that are needing your grace, support, and our support as well. We thank you, Father, for this land of freedom. We thank you that we have the rights that we do. And I pray for the peace of Jerusalem, for the peace of Israel, and that you will lead them in all that they are going through as well. Give us your grace this day, and we'll thank you. And I pray it in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Would you please place the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We do have a lot on our plate today. We have a lengthy agenda, so we'll try to move this along fairly quickly. Approval of current claims. For January 22nd, 2024, general, $79,214.41. Other was $200,406.05. Highway Department, $58,039.83, for a grand total of $337,660.29. And we can do the 29th. We can just do the next two.
I would do the 29th and the 22nd together since they were pre-approvals.
Okay, perfect. For the pre-approval for January 29th, 2024, general batch, $162,742.08. Other, $184,209.99. Highway, $1,269.41, for a grand total of $348,221.48. And I will need a motion I will look for a motion to approve those two pre-approvals.
I would move to approve the pre-approvals of January 22nd and January 29th as presented, and then I would add the pre-approvals single claim from the 29th as well in the amount of $1,933.75.
Paid to Mr. Payne.
Okay, Mr. Payne.
I would second that.
So we have a motion by Commissioner Bardsley, a second by Commissioner Wright, to approve the two pre-approvals and then also the pre-approved claims from January 29th, 2024 in the amount of $1,933.75. Any other questions or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. So carried. So we have a claim to approve for today, February 5th, 2024. General batch, $162,111.99. Other, $82,448.56. Highway, $1,663.17, for a grand total of $246,223.72. And I will entertain a motion to approve that.
Motion to approve the February 5th claims as presented.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Bardsley with support from Commissioner Wright. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. We have, and I can do payroll. We can do that together. Payroll number 2, pre-approval was given on January 17th, 2024 for pay dated 1/19/2024. Gross amount $624,813.34. Payroll number 3, the pre-approval was given on 1/31/2024 for pay dated February 2nd, 2024, in the amount of $623,196.77. And I will look for a motion to approve those.
Mr. President, I would move that we pass payroll number 2 and number 3 from a pre-approval, so we'd ratify this.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Wright, second by Commissioner Bardsley. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. It is approved. Next, we have approval of minutes.
Mr. President, I would move that we pass minutes from November 6, 2023.
Can we do
Second one there.
Oh, I'm so sorry, both of them.
November 20th?
November 20th as well to that motion.
I'll second that.
motion by Commissioner Wright to approve the minutes dated November 6th, 2023, and November 20th, 2023, with a second by Commissioner Bardsley. Any other questions or comments regarding those minutes? Hearing none, all those in favor, say aye, please.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. All right, so we have taken care of that. So the monthly report from the clerk of the court, we just need to show that as received, correct?
Actually, county treasurer, correct? Is that
I
correct?
would move to
Yes.
receive both the clerk of court report for month ending 12/31 of 2023 and the county treasurer's monthly report ending December 31st, 2023.
I will second that.
Motion by Commissioner Bardsley, second by Commissioner Wright. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. That is approved. We're ready to move on to communication and board updates, correct?
Mhm.
Looking around the room, Madam Auditor, do you have anything you would like to add for the good of the cause?
Not at this time.
Perfect. Anybody else with us? Thank you, Mr. Jackson. I know the first two meetings I overlooked you, so I'm glad you just decided to.
We'll catch you up here, that's good. So we did have, excuse me, we did have our monthly briefing this morning, our USC briefing. Not much reported from the health department, so we're looking good between there and the hospital. The county looks good as far as health issues and COVID and all the other things that we've been working through, so good reports there. A couple things we did hit on. Big one is State Road 9 will be closing on the 12th. The bridge out here, I did just receive a few minutes ago confirmation from the state that looks like that will be the 12th that does close. 270 days for that project. That's a long time. Sometime in November, that's supposed to reopen. So that will be closed during April 8th, during the eclipse, which is next item on the agenda that the task force has met, Sheriff's Department, all of our law enforcement, fire, EMS folks are meeting regularly now to make sure that we're doing all we can to make sure that things go off well on the 8th. Do expect a lot of traffic. That's our main issue really at this point. So we have seen an uptick in event scheduling for events in the county. I did attend a meeting last week at the public library, and they're going to have meetings every Tuesday at 2 for folks that are planning events, those kind of things. So it was very informative. And the Grant County Convention and Visitors Bureau has hired or working with an organization out of Carmel, I believe it is. So they are actively advertising Grant County as a destination for event viewing, for eclipse viewing. So stay tuned. There'll be a lot more information, I'm sure, coming out of there. That was very well attended last week, and we expect that will increase. So
Can you remind me of what day of the week that's on, that falls on?
the library,
No, the eclipse.
that is Monday, April 8th.
It's
That is
Monday.
a Monday, yes. So we know IW has an event really going that entire weekend. So it starts on Friday, and they have activities all weekend long that were independently scheduled. However, they are tying that to the eclipse now. So folks jumping on board.
Just kind of like to bring up a couple things. I know that some of our schools are talking about not having school that day,
Correct.
correct?
I believe all of them now have decided to do an e-learning day. I've not confirmed that with Marion yet, but all the others have.
Yeah. I've been kind of involved with this for probably close to a year now, and when it first started, it was like, okay, this is nothing. You know, it's an eclipse. It's just going to happen, right? I mean, but we also went down to Indianapolis for a meeting. I rode down with Mr. Jackson and over 200 law enforcement, DNR, fire departments. I mean, there was over 200 people at that meeting, and they're showing us pictures of an eclipse located in another state. But the traffic was horrible because once it's over, everybody wants to get out of town at the same time. It's kind of like after a Indianapolis 500 race. Everybody wants to get out, and you know, all that is pre-planned. They close off streets to get them in, close off streets to get them out. There's no way to do that here. It's just going to be helter-skelter. It really is for the whole thing. So appreciate you guys getting on this and doing your legwork and things. And I talked to Sheriff over the weekend. We talked a little bit about this. There is some concern, and I do believe that you know, we need to take a look at that as far as a government. Do we want to have our people out in this mess as well? So just food for thought. Do we want to close our county offices during that day? Again, it's going to be one of those things where, and we can do this as we get closer to it, but the more I'm hearing, the more problems we're going to have. I mean, they were talking about needing porta pots along the interstate because people are going to be stuck in traffic. They're thinking people's going to run out of gas because they didn't plan for having to wait. They had hours and hours and hours of people stuck on interstates. Sounds crazy, I know. But we are the closest to the total totality of it for the 3.5 to 4 minutes
Correct.
to Canada. And people are going to be coming down from Canada through Michigan and getting here, and then they're going to try to make it back home that night. I can tell you that all the state parks are all booked. There's not a hotel room left or a campsite left for this event. This is a big thing, and I know we may be laughing about it and things like that, but it's coming. It's coming our way, and I appreciate you guys really stepping up to the plate and making sure we're ready.
Well, the sheriff's, his mantra has been better to be prepared and not have anything happen than the other way around.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
okay. Anything else?
No, sir.
All right, thank
Yeah,
you.
Thank you very much. Any other elected officials? Sheriff Garcia?
Thank you for letting me come up here. Just a couple of updates that I want to give the board. January of last year, we were down about 19 jailers. Our staff was at about 52% strength. Today, we're down around 4. We have 3 or 4 guys that gals that we're looking at hiring. So we're doing a lot better as far as manning the jail. So we're really proud of the effort that our team has made in recruiting and also retaining some of our staff. So we're still moving in that direction. And with that being said, I want to talk to you and let you guys know about a program, a partnership that we just made with the Grant Regional Career Center. They are starting a program that will get an individual certified as a jailer through the Indiana Law Enforcement Academy. So we've partnered with them on the individuals that are 18 years old that will be able to come and work part-time for us and get some school credits. And the good thing, it will be a paid internship for them. The state will reimburse us half of that. So we're really excited about partnering with them. And in doing that in hopes of getting some recruitment out of their facility for our jail. I also wanted to update you on a pretty big deal that happened this weekend. Our Gene Team Drug Task Force, at the first of the year last year, we wanted to make sure we put a lot of emphasis on holding those accountable that are selling drugs, especially those that are causing a lot of the overdoses. So we increased our manpower by 200% up at the Gene Team from the county side. As you guys know, it's a joint effort between Marion Police Department, the Grant County Sheriff's Office, and the prosecutor's office. So we increased our manpower, and our Gene Team has been doing a great job. This weekend, they were able to take 6 pounds of meth off the street. They were able to take quite a bit of fentanyl and several other hard drugs off the street. So we're really proud of the work that the Gene Team is doing. Like I said, it's a joint effort between us and the Marion Police Department, and they're really working hard to make Grant County safer. If you guys read in the paper all the time, we're always reading about overdoses, young people dying from overdoses, and we're really trying to make an impact on that. So just want to give you those 2 quick updates. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Street value on that, the drug bust.
It was over 100 and some thousand. Yeah, $130,000 worth of drugs.
So when we think we don't have a problem, we got a problem.
Oh, yeah,
I mean,
definitely.
this guy was a pretty heavy dealer, and supplying a lot of other people, and I was talking to one of the officers over the weekend, and you know, the deal is now, okay, he's locked up, somebody else is going to try to get his business.
Right.
That's the way it works, and so we just got to keep on fighting. So thanks for your guys going out there and doing their job.
And it's important that we fight this on both fronts, on the dealer side, that we hold them accountable. We have to do a better job with the addiction portion of it. And we, at the jail, we're trying to implement some new programs to help some of our inmates that have that problem with addiction. So we're moving in that direction this year to be as aggressive on the addiction side as we're being on the dealer side. So.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff. Any other elected officials, boards, special committees would like to speak at this time? Seeing none, we will move on to the IT report.
Gentlemen, I don't really have anything at the moment. I'm hoping to have more at the next meeting. I'm still working on getting quotes from different phone providers, and I'm looking into getting pricing for access control for the courthouse, for the 2 front entrance ways. Just because of after what we found out, what happened in Suite 2 a few weeks ago.
Yep.
So, yep, I mean, that's where we're at.
Great, thank you. Highway Department, Mr. White.
Morning.
Morning.
The first thing I was going to bring up is from the stone and fuel bid from last meeting. We went through everything. I'd like to recommend that on the stone side, we accept Rock Creek and IMI both. Just kind of depends on where we're at and the time of year. If we can go up to Rock Creek, it is a little farther distance, but it is a half price of the stone compared to IMI. So if we can haul it back in our times when we're slow, we'll do that so we can use it at other times. So I'd like to accept both of them on the stone side, and I guess I'll bring up the fuel if you want me to wait and let you decide on that, or if you want me to do the fuel together. We only had one fuel bid. It came in like 2 days after the meeting with Martin Luther King Day holiday. They mailed it, so I think that was the problem. I talked to Kyle. That was the only bid we had. We've used them. It's Dawson Oil here in Marion. We've used them for a number of years that I can remember. So he said, you know, we got one bid. If you want to keep using them, that's fine with it. He thought that would be fine since we only had one bid. So I'd recommend we use them too, if that's all right with you gentlemen. So.
I would move to approve the recommendation. We've used this method before, and I would utilize Rock Creek and IMI for our stone bids and Dawson Oil for our fuel bids. That would be my motion.
I would support.
Motion by Mr. Bardsley, second by Mr. Wright to accept Rock Creek and IMI for the stone bid and Dawson Oil for the fuel, as Mr. White has presented. Any other questions or discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye. So carried.
Update you on Bridge 712, which is Branson Street here in Marion. We did not even get an invite this year for the federal aid program. I talked to NDOT probably about 2 weeks ago, right after the meeting, and we did not get an invite to apply for the federal aid. Way I understood, there's a lot of people didn't get invites, so I don't know if they didn't have a lot of money this year to spend out for 2030. I don't remember now when the last. So I've been talking to Tanisha with BF&S, and we're going to look at some different other avenues, some other types of grants basically through the federal government, not have to work with the state kind of thing. So we've already had a couple webinars on that, trying to find out what we can and can't do. So I'll just update you as much as I can on those. So there's some funding bill that the federal government passed that we're trying to look and see if that might have worked on that. So
And Bridge 712 is located where and?
Branson Street here in Marion.
And what's that looking like? I mean,
It's not in that bad a shape,
Okay.
but that's the only bridge in the county that has 5 piers that catches all the trees. So we were trying to get it so it wouldn't catch the trees and have to clean it out 2 or 3 times a year is what we were trying to do. So, and then the other thing I was going to bring up, we did apply for community crossing grant. We put in Bridge 84, which is over 38th Street River Bridge. And then we put in for 2 paving projects. We put in for Wheeling Pike from South County line to State Road 26. And we put in Francis Slocum Trail from 200 north to 500 north. Those 3 projects together was almost $3 million. And since they've raised where we pay half, we can go up to $1.5 million. So that's why we did that section of roadway and bridge. So we applied for that. It's usually the 1st of April before we get notification if we did get accepted. So working on those still.
Good.
That's all I have today, unless you gentlemen have any.
Any other questions for Mr. Wright? Mr. White? All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, we will move on to old business at this time. Social Media Fund, Sheriff's Department. Morning.
Morning. My name's Matt Ogden. I'm here on behalf of Sheriff Garcia for the Social Media Fund. Like we met the last meeting, we discussed the performance bonus from Facebook that Meta's paying us now. I got with Justin to get an ordinance set up, and it was sent to Kyle. You guys should have a copy of it. But this would be a Grant County Sheriff's Department Social Media Fund, and that money then will be for the sheriff's office. So you guys should have a packet. If you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer anything that you may have.
I think they did a pretty good job of explaining it at the last
At the
meeting.
last meeting,
Yeah,
yeah.
so I didn't know if you guys had any other questions or.
Well, they had a large event that went viral, right?
We did. The camels and zebras went global. In fact, surprisingly, so we don't get paid for our reels, and I posted those videos as reels, which got over almost 500,000 views globally. So we actually don't get any money for that, which I'm fine with, because this isn't about money.
Right.
This is about, our community, Grant County, and about serving our people. Just so happened at 2:47 in the morning, I got a call from the patrol division saying that there was camels and zebras, and you got to see this, and they started sending me pictures, and I was like, I can't believe this. So probably one of the once-in-a-lifetime type deals. So
I had people from all over the state.
I did too.
had 2 or 3 people message me asking me if this was our county.
Yeah. And what's kind of neat about it is usually it's something very bad, right, that goes viral.
Yes.
Something
So
like
we-
a school shooting whatever that is, and this was a positive thing where every animal was saved, correct?
Yes, and this was a good test for us.
Yeah.
So if we do have a major event, we kind of know, what to expect from the media and stuff like that. We are getting requests from all over the nation. I even saw it over in Europe, India, Pakistan, just globally. It went beyond anything I could ever imagine. And we still have stuff rolling out online that I've been able to follow about it.
Good.
So this ordinance basically establishes the fund and provides the purpose, saying that it's to preserve funds solely for the purpose of providing ancillary goods and/or services to benefit the Grant County Sheriff's Department.
Okay. So we need an ordinance number 2.
Mr. President, I would, if there's no other questions, I would make a motion that we accept ordinance number 2 as presented, 2024. Ordinance number 2, 2024, as presented.
Motion by Mr. Wright, second by Commissioner Bardsley to approve ordinance 2-2024. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. So moved.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, we have a boiler chiller project addendum. And Justin, you might want to help me out here, but basically, this addendum is just looking for our approval to begin as detailed in the agreement Grant County has entered into with Ameresco. We did that in November. We just need to approve the scope of the services. The total proposed project cost is $1,282,336, which is slightly below the number that was provided to us on the 9th. So I think, so in addition to the addendum, Ameresco is going to need a notice to proceed from the county in order to get started on that. So, and you'll handle that, Justin? I will. Okay. Is there anything I need to add on that you know of? Anything you want to add?
Covered it well. I believe lead time on the boilers is about 6 weeks. On the chiller, it's about 9 months.
Ooh, gotcha. Okay. Colleagues, any questions, any comments, any discussion?
I think that the last emails we saw, while we have those dates as projected start times, we may not see a completion until 2025, if I recall the email correctly.
Correct.
So it's not only imperative that we get this going for this building as well as the care of the jail, but then that speaks to our issues with, because this is ARPA money, and we need to make sure that we have everything in order, so.
Yep. Excellent. If there's no other questions or discussion, I'll entertain a motion.
I would move to approve the first addendum to the public-private agreement approval project development proposal, our Grant County plot as presented.
I will second that.
Motion by Commissioner Bardsley, second by Commissioner Wright, to approve the first addendum to public-private agreement and approval of project development proposal, Grant County BOT. If there's no other questions or discussion, we'll go to a vote. All those in favor, say aye, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. So moved. All right, we are going to move on to new business, EMS Director appointment. I am happy to report that we are recommending Dawn Harness to be moved from interim director to full-time director. Did I get that correct? Yep. And so if there's any questions or discussion regarding that, I'll entertain it at this time. If not, we'll look for a motion.
I'm going to just make a couple comments on this. Dawn's been a vital part of the EMS for quite some time, and even though we put her in as an interim, we did publicize that the job was available on our website and different places and stuff, and Dawn was the only person in it. So this comes with great, what do I want to say, privilege for me as far as knowing that Dawn is doing a good job and it's kind of been under Dwayne's wing for I don't know how many years now. Mark, you might be able to know that.
I remember when Dawn and Dwayne were upstairs on the 6th floor, and there really wasn't any development on the 6th floor. They just used the EMS, that was their office up there, just a couple of desks,
Yeah.
and otherwise empty 6th floor.
And now what they're doing, they're training EMTs for us, working with Bob Jackson for training. And so I think it'd be my privilege to go ahead and make a motion that we make Dawn our, not our interim, but our EMS director.
Full-hearted support.
I agree. Great fit for the position. So we have a motion from Commissioner Wright, second by Mr. Bardsley, to approve Dawn Harness as the full-time EMS director. Any other questions? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye. So moved. Is Dawn here by chance?
She may be in the back room here.
Probably there. I'd like to maybe speak up just a little bit too. You know, we had the fire out there at the EMS building. Dawn's played an active role in that and trying to figure out exactly what we need to do out there. A lot of storage, and our auditor, Ms. Jarvis, has been out there and going through boxes after boxes. Same way with the treasurer's office, same way the assessor. And so we're trying to figure out exactly what to do with those documents, because you do have to keep them so many years. And, but in the same token, there's some contamination from some of the foam and stuff that they use to fight the fire is kind of coming into play. So appreciate the gals going out there and really doing a good job trying to get through this stuff. It's a labor. I mean, it is a labor. I mean, we're throwing boxes and everything else out there around, and we're trying to get ready for a spring tear down of that building. So what they're doing now is really going to help us to be ready to go when we can actually. And then David White, if he's still here, he has said that the highway department can tear that down and save us a lot of money.
Yep.
So it's a good thing. So, but I wanted to give a shout out to them. They're doing a great job.
Excellent. We have a library board appointment for Upland. Looks like Aubrey Wickham, the library director for the public library in Upland, is recommending an appointment for Sean Denny to continue on the board. Mr. Denny will be starting his second four-year term, so would like to entertain a motion to approve Mr. Denny for that board position.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Wright, second by Mr. Bardsley. Any questions or comments, any concerns? Hearing none, those in favor say aye, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, so moved. It is approved with our thanks to Mr. Denny. Tax certification sale agreement and resolution. Justin is going to help us out with that.
So before you have an addendum to the overall agreement with SRI, basically setting our tax certificate sale for April, beginning April 5th. We'll be moving to an online platform at this time, setting all minimum bids at $300. We are looking into the deposit discussion. So you saw my emails, okay. So that, basically with your signature, we'll proceed with the tax sale.
I would move to approve the updated agreement with SRI as presented.
I'll second.
We have an approval by Commissioner Bardsley, a second by Commissioner Wright, to approve the addendum to SRI tax sale service agreement. Any other questions or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. So moved.
Do we need to have this resolution as well? Because we had the SRI, but
Brett, are you talking about SRI?
Yes, there is an agreement, and then there is a resolution establishing the intent to conduct a commissioner sale to sell tax sale certificate for property that is severely delinquent in payment of property taxes. So yes, we would need a resolution number.
Resolution number 2. So let the record show that resolution number 2024-2 establishes the intent to conduct a commissioner sale to sell tax sale certification for property that is severely delinquent in payment of property taxes. Any other?
I would move that we adopt resolution 2024-2.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Bardsley, second by Commissioner Wright, to adopt resolution 2024-2. All those in favor, say aye, please.
Aye.
Aye. So moved.
And then just one final piece, I'll need signatures from the auditor and treasurer for the sale calendar.
Perfect. Up next, we have SBS Portals proposal. Pam Harris, our clerk. Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning. Thank you for allowing us some time to meet with you this morning.
Sure.
I'd like to start off with, I understand that we have some American Rescue funds that are available, and according to the Chronicle, the only thing missing is a plan of action, and I have come with a serious situation here. I have my friend Doug with me from SBS Portals, and he's going to share some wonderful information. The plan that I have, my concern is the record center. The fire retardant material that's supposed to be on the ceiling is now on the floor and covering important court documents. These are adoptions, marriages, unimaginable court cases, our history, our family, and the stories of our county are all over there with the substance all over them. One of my main concerns is, like Mr. Wright has shared with us, the property on Garthwaite Road. My chief deputy and I are going to be going out there this afternoon, working with the Destruction Commission, the county, the Indiana Archives, and according to the retention schedules to see what can be done, what needs to be done, what are next steps for these documents that have been stored out there. And to be honest, I wasn't aware that there were documents out there. That was a clerk several times back. And so we're anxious to see what the state of things are. I would like to, now Doug is with the portal to help preserve, and I'd like to put an emphasis on this fund, rescue. That's where we are, where we need to rescue these important county documents. I have already sent you, you had in your packet the proposal. As Doug speaks, we have a presentation. I promise you it won't be lengthy, but Doug will have a lot of wonderful information for us, and I'll pass out this. set that person.
I know you've got a lengthy agenda, so I will keep this brief. And this isn't a new subject that I don't think that I know has come up in the county in the past. So what Pam is talking about is digitizing these records. And that's not new to the county. We've worked with the sheriff's department back in 2019 because they had a similar situation. They had all of their records in the jail, didn't have any place to put inmates. So we digitized those records, and the county is already on our cloud-based portal system to house those records. And Pam's already talked about all the reasons, and you're very well aware with a fire in the building where there are critical one unique kind records that once they're gone, they're gone. And that's not unique to Grant County. Your neighbors to the west last year had a sprinkler system or a hose or something that failed, rained down all over the clerk's records. The good side of that was we had already digitized some of those records, so they weren't all destroyed. But when you talk about the cost of projects, talk to them about what it costs to box up those records, ship them to Texas to have them freeze dried, to bring them back to be able to be used again. And again, unique, one-of-a-kind records that once they're lost for good. COVID actually accelerated counties in digitizing their records because counties were shut down. They couldn't conduct court business because they didn't have access to those records. Many counties have used, all the way back to the original funding, CARES Act. Counties used CARES Act money to fund this project because they didn't have the money otherwise. We've had many counties use their ARPA funds for this because it was a unique situation, a one-time money. And that's the thing about this type of project is once it's done, you fixed a problem forever. It's a one-time cost, and then it's done. And then there's other benefits to it as well. That space, what's that space worth that those records are there? $8, $10 a square foot per month. And obviously the jail needed that space for inmates, and they've continued to use that system, and I'm going to show you what their system looks like here in a minute. And the court records are from whenever you went on Odyssey back in 2018, all records going forward have been digital. There's a reason for them to be digital because they're safe. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time talking about who we are. That's going to be in your handout information. We've been doing this for 40 years. We're very well aware of the type of records and the care that those records need. And I'm pretty sure Pam has already talked to a number of the other clerks that we use, but almost all the surrounding counties, all of your neighbors have used us. So we've got, and you don't have to look any further than really the sheriff's department for a reference because we've already worked with the county for an exact project like this. But I'm happy to come back and answer any questions you have about who we are. And I just mentioned our experience with other clerks. And again, that why this is accelerated. There has been disasters. There's been tornadoes and people have lost records. And again, I've already mentioned the reason with COVID. It allowed counties to continue to conduct business, being able to access records remotely. Hope we don't have another one, but we didn't think we were going to have that one either, I don't think. Our solution to then house those records, if you've got an on-site system and you want to house those locally, we can put them on a drive and you can put them on your hard drive. Otherwise, I will show you just very briefly what our system is, the cloud-based system that the Sheriff's Department is currently using. The scope of this project is back in, I think it was in June, Pam asked me to inventory the type of records that are over there. And you've got the detailed version of those records. This is just a summary of what's in there. Some 5 to 6 million document pages of records. This is an estimate because obviously I can't go in there and count 6 million pages, but we have an algorithm over the 40 years that we've done this we're pretty accurate with it. And to be honest with you, this estimate, I personally think, and from my experience, is probably high, but I'd rather estimate high and come in low. And so that's intentionally a little bit high. And there are some records over there that if you approve this project, as we go through it, we'll look at the state retention policies. Some of this, there's a few things in here that I question whether they even need to be digitized because their retention cycle is coming up close enough that you won't need to do that. House them and then you can purge those documents. But I wanted to include that to show you what the maximum of a project like this might be. And a lot of those records are permanent records that have to be, it's a compliance issue as well, that they need to be backed up and saved. SBS Portals is the system that the sheriff is now using and many other counties are using as well to house those documents. This is actually a screenshot of the sheriff's department's portal. These are electronic file cabinets. When we started that project, it was simply to get those court case files out of the jail cells. They've expanded to, I lost count, I think it's 17 different electronic file cabinets that they've now created and are using. So it's very, very widely used in the sheriff's department. And you can see all the different types of records that they are keeping in the system now. And it creates connectivity between the departments as well. Once they're digitized, you can do a lot of things through this system that connects you to the community and connects departments to each other. There are other modules within this that other counties are using. This is a page that comes along with the portal that gives the county, the clerk's department workflows and the community access to be able to fill out records. Everybody's familiar with filling out records digitally now. That's how things are done. This allows that to be done with the community for any types of records that the community asks the departments for. Marriage records, case files, anything like that can all be done, and it's digitally tracked. Every time somebody touches that, the community member or business knows where their request is at all times, and the department can then communicate digitally and electronically with those people to tell them exactly where their requests are. And this is just kind of some background on that these type of projects have been approved for ARPA money as well as back with CARES Act money. The county was able to set aside X amount of those dollars, X percent of those dollars into your general fund or your lost revenue fund. Those can be used, but even other funds that have to be approved are approved for this type of use. Questions?
I have a question.
Comments? Yes.
So if this is approved from the time you start to the time you finish, how long does that take, roughly?
It depends on how, we would intentionally do this slower because you want access, Pam would have access to the records at all times while we're digitizing them. But we take them in pieces, so you've got access at all times to them. A project of this scope is probably a two-year project. We've got two others of basically this same size and scope, and that's about what those are taking. If ARPA funds are being used, and I don't know that this is why you're asking this question, but the ARPA funds have to be accounted for this year and then used by 26. It'll be done by then.
Okay.
Any other questions?
I apologize. Did I hear off-site? You're taking those off-site for
Yes.
work?
Yes, and we are South Bend-based company, so they stay in the state. Pam has access to those records. If she's got a request for those records while we obtain those, that is first priority. We promise to have those records back to her within 24 hours. Honestly, we turn them around same day. I see them turned around within usually an hour. By the time she would walk over in the other building and get them, we're going to probably have them back to her.
And in speaking to other clerks, because this company has, with the 92 counties you've worked with.
We have worked in one department or another with every county in the state. Posey County was the only county we had not worked with, and now we're working with them as of last year. So we've done some kind of work with every county in the state.
And from the clerks that I have spoke with, they have been more than satisfied with the product, with how quickly, if they do have a document that they need, like Doug said, within just a very, very short time, they have the information back. So they've all been very satisfied. From what I understand, our local sheriff's department has
Yes.
been very satisfied.
Yes. And we're Homeland Security, we have some Homeland Security, we have HIPAA, all the regulations we need to cover we have satisfied. And we are also, just last thought is, we are also registered in good standing with SAM.gov, which you need to be to have access to the federal funds like ARPA.
Just to kind of remind you also of the fire that was at the Garthwaite property. Not too long ago, a year or so, the pipe that broke and went down all through Soup 2, and documents and things that were affected there. We just really need to be mindful of the precious documents that are in our care. And again, the main word that caught my eye in this ARPA thing was the rescue. We need to rescue these precious documents of our county.
And those records they're degrading. Every time somebody touches one of those, they're worse off than they were before. Just sitting there, depending on climate control, they're deteriorating as they sit. And once they're digital, you've got them for good.
Just I have a question between the three of us. Spending 1.1 million, do we have to have more companies put in a bid towards this? How does that work? I mean, it's a lot of money, right?
I would encourage it just from my business standpoint. I've never been afraid of a bid. We've won every bid we've been with. And you've already have a history of us with
Yeah.
the sheriff's
And
department.
I'm sure you do a great job, but I guess I'm looking from our standpoint. with
Yes.
Taxpayer dollars.
It
we
is
gotta
a-
make sure that
yeah,
we're spending them the best
I
way we
encourage
possibly
it.
can.
It is a service, so technically you don't have to, but I'm more than happy if you do. And I would actually help Pam get that done.
Usually with projects, anything over 150,000, a request for qualifications and proposal needs to go out.
Okay.
Yep.
Any other questions at this time? Gentlemen?
I think we take it under advisement.
I would recommend we take it
right?
under advisement.
Appreciate you bringing it to us.
Thank you very much for your time.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Again, thank you very, very much. Appreciate you.
Moving on, under new business, we will move on to the comprehensive plan resolution. Mr. Malat?
I'm up here.
He's up there.
Busy day, so I thought I'd work and watch. This is just a resolution for the local match commitment. You guys had met before and had agreed to do a $7,500 match for our Okra grant. This is just the official signing for it. Right now, we've got the resolution today. We've got a public hearing tonight on the comprehensive plan. We've went through the scoring committee. We've went through the income survey. We're to a point now that once we get this signed and get it through a public hearing, the grant application is due February 14th, and we find out March 15th if we get the grant. If we get the grant on March 15th, then we are ready to move forward.
Okay. We have the resolution in front of us.
In addition to the resolution, there's a whole packet here for you, Mr. President, to sign, including an ER exemption form, signature page, 4-factor form, third-party authorization, disclosure report, authorization of submission, and, QBS scoring replacement, and Federal Funding Accountability and Transparency Act certification.
Looking forward to it. Sorry, I can't wait.
Well, this is a big thing for our county. as I was serving on the area plan, that was one of those things where we just really haven't had a comprehensive plan for a number of years. And by able to get some grant money to the tune, I believe, Mr. Malott, isn't it 60 grand that we're?
Yes.
$60,000, so spending $7,500 to get $60,000 in grant money, I think is money well spent. Plus also, this sets us up as we've done the income survey. We had to do that in order to be able to be qualified for this grant from Okra. And fortunately or unfortunately, our level of income for our people fell below the threshold where we can get grant money. And I think that's what we're going to find out as we go in the area plan. If you have a comprehensive plan, you can go after more grants. And we just haven't been really able to go do those things. So I'm very thankful, appreciate Mr. Malott really following up on that, making sure that we're heading in the right direction when it comes to a comprehensive plan where we can bring in more money into our community.
I second those sentiments.
We need a resolution number for this?
Maybe. So that's 2024-3, correct? If there's no other questions or discussion, I will entertain a motion to approve resolution number 2024-3, authorizing application submission and local match commitment.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Wright with support from Commissioner Bardsley. All those in favor, say aye, please.
Aye.
Aye. So moved.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on, ARPA spending plan discussion. I'm going to invite, Connor Sullivan is here with us. He is the attorney that we have partnered with to help us navigate this ARPA stuff. So basically what we're going to do is we have a list of things here that we would like to do with the unappropriated balance of the ARPA money. But I want to let Mr. Sullivan kind of talk about kind of the timelines and kind of what we have to do and when and why.
Mr. President, could I make a suggestion? We do have 3 members of county
Yes.
council with us today. If you guys want to come up here where you can actually see and ask questions of Mr. Khanna, we'd love to have you up with us. There's a chair there, and a chair there if you want to come on up so you can ask any questions that you may have as we're going through this, because this is a partnership between the county council and the commissioners and trying to come up with a plan that will work for everyone. So it's in the best interest of the county that we're all kind of hearing what's going on and be able to ask questions.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yes,
Yep.
we have Mr. Connor with us, we have Mr. Scott, and we have Mr. Lemming that's going to sit in with us on this, so.
Thank you, Mr. President. A few items I just wanted to kind of touch on. I know that prior to the meeting today, Commissioner Bardsley had a question or a concern about whether it's appropriate to discuss the ARPA spending plan in public. The Treasury it's very safe to say the Treasury encourages this to be discussed in a public forum. The federal government issued I guess disseminated the ARPA funds was, I think, 2021 or so, and want you to spend it by 2025, or at the end of 2025. I think all of us in the room here understand that local government has several layers to work through, and spending can take time. And that being said, the federal government, the Treasury, wants you to spend this money sooner than later. And so that kind of goes to the point where instead of taking long deliberated times to, whether it's, figure out how to spend the money, they're pushing it out the door, and that they encourage you to have these discussions in public so that the public is aware of it, since this could be an expedited process for people. And so it is encouraged that you discuss the spending plan, what projects are going to be determined and decided upon in a public forum like this. The only thing I would advise against is, obviously, if it's a specific project that has to do with land acquisition
or something to that matter. Obviously, that is an executive session permitted exception to the public meeting rules, but I don't think that is in question here today. The second item I wanted to talk about briefly too is in Councilman Lemming, Scott, and Connor will recall, we discussed, I was at the council meeting last time, that Treasury likes to, I like to say, move the field goal posts on local government quite a bit. The new definition of what an obligation is now is, it used to be that the project had to be identified by the end of '24. Now they want either some kind of contract or MOU in place that solidifies that. They really want to make sure you are spending those funds, and so that expedites the process a little more. I know that, this is a good first step to have this ARPA committee here. And you have plenty of time to create your plan, decide what projects are going to be funded, and to get things under contract. But I just want to make sure everyone's aware of that it did change from not just having a plan saying, hey, here's what we're going to spend our money on, but now you need to have, something in writing. And again, it's either an MOU or a contract, which they're very similar in the municipal world. So I just want to make sure people are aware of that, because that deadline is approaching rather soon. The last item before, and I apologize, just some updates I want to make sure everyone's aware of, and I actually think Auditor Jarvis might appreciate this too. When you're deciding your plan, now that you have a committee, there are several ways that you can fill projects with that, whether it's a tourism project or a tourism industry, hospitality, whether it's something directly related to COVID or public health care, drainage, water, environmental, or the revenue reduction, which is the broadest category that permits you, the county government, to spend on anything government service related. There's several ways to do it, but from a reporting standpoint, if you identify projects that fit under one of the permitted categories, obviously, put it in your plan under whatever permitted category it is. Again, whether it's hospitality or a drainage project or something, that is obviously permitted. But from a reporting standpoint, you are now making that, if you give it to a drainage project, and this is just one that's fresh off my head, and not saying that it's any project that you guys have considered, but by Grant County giving, whether it's a contractor to fix a drainage issue, they become your subrecipient. There are, whether it's American Steel or prevailing wage requirements, Davis-Bacon type stuff, that those subrecipients now have to follow, which means your auditor has to now go through every single document to make sure it's okay. And then the federal government will look at every single one of those documents, which again gives you more chances to have the Treasury say, hey, this wasn't done correctly, or this wasn't done right, or we don't like this. And then ultimately, the county would have to pay those funds back, because at that point in time, you've likely spent them. And as the auditor knows too, when you're going through your annual audit with the State Board of Accounts, it's her name on the line. And so she has a vested interest in making sure you guys do it right, makes her life easier, and makes the county's liability obviously be mitigated. All that to be said is, when you put it under your revenue reduction, it is just as simple as what you guys typically do. As at the beginning of the meeting with Commissioner Stewart I was going through invoices being approved and everything. That's all it is from a reporting standpoint. And that means your auditor just has to do what she normally does, which again is you identify a project, you get the contract, you make sure the money's appropriated, you receive an invoice, she submits it to the treasurer, it's paid. That's just how you typically do probably with every claim, correct? So not only does the revenue reduction provide you the most flexibility to decide what projects to spend this money on, but it will help your auditor and it'll help you with your reporting requirements down the road. I mentioned to the council the last time I was here that it is highly advised or recommended, and I would advise to get someone on board, whether it's a bond or consulting or someone of that form or fashion, to help you with your reporting, because this is above and beyond what what Grant County has to typically do. You want to make sure your spending plan is correct. You want to make sure the reporting's handled correctly. And you want to make sure all the reports are filed. So that's just a couple of quick things I wanted to touch on. And it was something on my drive up I was thinking about other counties, Madam Auditor, that have ran into hurdles because of all these different federal requirements that local government in Indiana doesn't have to typically do. So that being said, again, that was a lot of information. I just want to provide an update. Any questions, comments, or concerns, I welcome them.
So that deadline, Mr. Sullivan, is the end of this year, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yep.
And I just want to make sure I'm clear, that's not only to have the projects agreed upon, but that is also we need to be entered into agreements with stakeholders.
Yes, the Treasury, their initial thought was that it had to be under contract. They do understand that with the amount of funds, some of these projects could go towards major capital projects, and that, the due diligence period, does require time. So an MOU might be sufficient where you enter an MOU between the Grant County and that stakeholder. So it's not a true contract, but at that point in time, by doing that, if you want to switch it later, it had to be towards that project in the future. It can't be just so we had an MOU in place for Project A just to meet that requirement, and now the requirement's done. We've had more time. We actually want to do Project B. No, the MOU would still have to be in place where you have to do it for Project A. You could then at that point in time change your vendor or your consultants or whoever it is. But yes, it needs to be in writing and it needs to be somewhat binding upon Grant County. The concern I would have going towards the MOU route rather than a true contract is that the Treasury is already moving things to become more strict with how you allocate and appropriate the funds to it. And so it's better safe than sorry. I think I was only here, Councilman, was a couple weeks ago when we were talking about the deadlines that the Treasury had, and since then they've kind of tightened the belt a little bit more so on them, and I don't see that changing anytime soon, unfortunately.
Just one more question really quick. And I'm just playing devil's advocate here. So let's just say, because we have 8.7 that's unappropriated, 8.7 million. Let's just say for whatever reason, we can't get into an agreement on 2 million of that. What would happen to that 2 million?
If there is nothing in writing by December 31st of 2024, is that what you're asking?
Yes.
You would have to give it back to the federal government at that point in time, yes.
And it has to be appropriated as well.
It has,
by the end of 24.
and yes, and so as per any contract in municipal government, there has to be an appropriation made for that contract, otherwise it's void. So yes, by consequence of that, you would want the contract in place, executed with the funds appropriated towards that project. Yes.
So we have plenty of time, but the clock is ticking.
It is. And it's a substantial amount of money too, and that's,
Yes.
again, I don't want to, raise any fear or concerns by any means. You can obviously this is more than enough time. You guys can take your time, get the job done right, but it's one of those things that this moves up on you quickly, and I know that there's a lot of projects that have been discussed, and it's just better to move forward and kind of get this thing figured out in a timely manner, which, again, I applaud the council members. It was just last time I was here, you guys discussed, hey, we like the idea of the committee, and now that you have 3 people here, so I think you guys are moving in the right direction.
Should I speak to what we have?
Yeah, I think that's
Yeah, that sounds good.
what we're thinking about, yeah.
Connor, if you don't care, I'm going to just take a couple minutes and I'm going to just kind of speak to what we have.
Absolutely. I'll just take a seat. I'm right over there, so just let me know.
All right,
Thank you.
I'm sure we'll have more questions for you.
Absolutely.
Thank you. So like I said, we do have $8,709,857 that is still unappropriated. So what we've kind of come up with, purchase of 4 ambulances, estimated cost, $1.2 million. The annex elevators, the dual elevators outside, $650,000. A demolition in Swayze, $35,000. Recycle center cover, $200,000. Seal and repair of the annex exterior, $900,000. Courthouse repairs, $100,000. Jail design, $4.5 million. Highway equipment, $1,075,000. And sheriff's equipment would cover the rest of the remaining balance, $49,857. Some items that we have talked about, and we've listed here, items to consider: broadband in the amount of $2.5 million, the Salem Bank exterior, $1 million, tourism and festivals, $40,000, D-home cleaning, $50,000, highway equipment, $2,385,000, township fire radios, $325,000, and the Cardinal Greenway, $1 million. And personally, I'm not sure how you guys feel, I'd like to add the records project that was just presented.
I've already got it down there.
Yep, I would like to add that in the amount of $1.1 million to consider. So entertain questions, discussions from both the commissioners and the council members.
You have a total of all of these running?
Yes, sir. Are you talking about what we're wanting to do, or are you talking about the items to consider?
Let's do, I can do it. You go ahead and do your thing. And
So
I think the unappropriated balance over there at the top,
8,709,857.
See how it comes down?
It all, if you,
so everything on here totals 8.7.
at the top,
At the top, yep.
okay.
If you look over, sir, if you look over on the right-hand side of that column, you'll see how it kind of goes down to, until you get to the zero balance.
That makes sense.
Yep.
I think we've got the ambulance purchase up at the top because it makes sense. And again, all this, except for maybe one or two small projects, actually would have to be in the loss recovery area because we can't access the, outside of loss recovery, we only have broadband, sewer, remuneration to public employees for COVID expenses, and there's one other, but there are only 4 areas we could really put the general money to unless we move it to loss recovery. But from conversations with the council early on, and they've talked about the concept of saving us money by going ahead and doing our ambulance purchase instead of the lease program. I think we save
$190.
It's $190,000.
$190,000 if we go to an outright purchase with that money. So that up at number 1 makes sense.
And my understanding, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but my understanding is that one of those ambulances, according to Dawn Harness, can be delivered sometime, I think, in April. So if we were going to do this, it would be better if we went ahead and did it all at once instead of go ahead and doing one, and then you got to worry about the other 3. I think there's a little sense of urgency to that one, to save the $190,000, if that makes sense.
So I guess I'll just speak. I had this in front of me on Saturday, and I appreciate that. You gave me a chance to kind of go over a few things, and I believe that we've done the chiller already, and that was 1.2, correct?
Correct.
So it started at
1.3,
$10 million thereabouts, and we've done that process. So I mean, from that point, I think that we're all on the same page. I think that, I'm not going to speak for these 2 gentlemen, but I think we want to kind of just digest it and make sure where we're at. But I do agree with whatever we do with the money, we want to make sure we're moving Grant County forward. And I think that's the whole reason for the council wanting to be involved in the get-go, is to say, if we're going to take this money and spend it, are we moving the county forward where we don't have more debt? Because we have done, I don't want to pat myself on the back, but I feel like we've done a pretty good job of trying to get raises out to people. I mean, if you look back, we've given it close to 20, 21% over the last 2 to 3 years. We're really trying to work hard. We don't want to spend money so that we're going to get shooting ourselves in the foot in 2 more years to say, hey, we got to go back and cut everything because we messed up. So I think that whatever we do to move ourselves forward is by far the best point. We know as council members, these gentlemen have been a lot longer than I have. Between the 3 of us, I think we're about 50 years. I think it's pretty close. We've spent a lot of money on repairs. So I mean, I think that in order to help us, that's a big one for me. That's just my thoughts.
Thank you. Mr. Scott, Mr. Connor, any thoughts, anything to add at this time?
So if we go with the bond agent that was suggested, so will we be able to use the ARPA funds to pay for that bonding agent if we choose to go that route? Or is that going to be something outside of?
I believe so.
Bonding agent, I'm sorry.
Mr. Sullivan, can you help us with that? Can we pay for the bonding agent out of ARPA funds if that's the route we?
The bonding agent,
For what? Bonding agent for?
You mentioned earlier about hiring.
The help with the reporting? Yes, absolutely. That is, my hearing's extremely poor. Yes, for any administrative services you need to help make sure, whether it's reporting, administrating of it, legal, consulting, whatever it is, all of that can be permitted to be paid for out of ARPA. In fact, I would encourage you to pay that out of ARPA instead of your general fund, since those are, yeah. But yes, sir. Sorry, I could not hear the first time. Sorry about that.
Are we opening up the opportunity for either members of the community who may have projects going on, or department heads that may have already went that route? Are we going to encourage that to happen? Kind of, I guess, where do we go in the next 30 to 60 days?
I think we've reached out to, I don't know that we've really reached out to the public. And
I've had the public reach out to me,
I
some
too.
nonprofits that would like to at least make a request.
Okay.
I know, I got an envelope on Friday, late Friday, from the Quilters Hall of Fame wanting some money for their projects down at the train station. I mean, there's a lot of people seeing this because it was in the paper, as Ms. Harris said. Was in the paper, so everybody thinks you're flush with cash, but it doesn't go very far, does it?
It goes
I mean,
quick.
look at all the stuff down there at the bottom as well, right? So you're just trying to figure that out, and just to kind of bring you up on a couple things, because I've been kind of intimately involved in this whole thing in my mind. When it comes to the broadband, I just met with a broadband company. I've probably met with 4 of them that's looking at trying to make sure that we have our county done. Well, the one that came in last week, all the rest of them, there was no input into what we give, okay? But I also saw some of their maps, and they wasn't covering the whole county. And so this one, the last one that came into us and said, if we have 2.5 million because you got to buy into it, we'll do your whole county. So do we do that for underserved broadband people out in the county, to make sure that either school kids can access the internet, farmers and all the things that they do, they can have service in their area. I mean, so again, that was kind of just last week, just kind of off the cuff. And we went ahead and added it for items to consider, because here's what companies do, just like anybody else, right? They're in it for a buck. And so they cherry pick where the most population is. That's how they're going to get paid back, the monthly fees from those people. So they're cherry picking areas of our county and saying, this is the area we want to cover with this amount of money. And they're going to get grant monies from the state. Is it state or fed? Do you know about that, Connor?
I think it's fed.
There's a lot of broadband money going out right now, whether that's through the Lieutenant Governor's office, with Oker's office, and federal government money as well. And a lot of the broadband money that broadband utility providers are going to request of you, you'd want to make sure that you want to see what their match is, because by law, they have to provide some kind of match to show what they're contributing as well. But yes, you're correct. There's quite a bit of money out there, and they will come ask for it, but you need to see where it's going to go and who's going to receives the service.
And so while I've been looking at this and things, and like I say, I've seen their maps, they're cherry picking and not really covering our whole county. And I don't think that's fair, you know? And in order for us to cover the whole county, we got to have a little skin in the game because of the map. And then the other piece is, as Mr. Sullivan said, you got federal money and state money. And so I think it's the state money that's coming at us right now. But if we do, if there is a company out there that will do that, there's what they call BEAD money after that. You want to explain that a little bit, Mr. Sullivan?
Yeah, I know a little bit about that. There's several waves of the funding coming down from the Lieutenant Governor's office. There's also the major one at the federal level is RDOF money, and these service providers will be provided, they will submit proposals to the federal government. They will be awarded a territory. And so they have exclusive right to, in that area, to receive RDOF funds. It's rural development. I'm sorry, I can't remember what the O&F stand for off the top of my head, but those are the funds that they would, probably the most funds they will get, and so they will compete for those territories, and that's where you want to communicate with those ones to see who has been awarded whatever jurisdiction it is. And in a county, the physical size of Grant County, there's going to be probably several providers that have been awarded this jurisdiction. But yeah, there's Oker has, I think they're in the fourth phase of this, and I think they have 2 or 3 more at least planned right now that they have funding lined up. And, one thing you want to be careful of is what those state funds are going to be used for. Is it for last mile connections, which means you have to get it to, essentially in front of someone's house, and they pay for from the street to the house, which can be a quite costly burden for taxpayers and people that are asking for the service. But yeah, there's quite a bit of funds out there, and actually, it's not uncommon for counties to hire a consultant to help them go through this. I know just a little bit just from my other work in other counties and stuff. I'm by no means a broadband expert, but there are people out there that you could have them help coordinate that effort if broadband is a high priority for Grant County. And all the service providers will be able to meet the legal requirements of speed that you have to meet for ARPA. So that's not a big ask whatsoever. It's just going to be depending where you want to allocate those funds. And then once you get the funds there, make sure that, it's great telling, John Smith that you have broadband, but now he has to pay for it to go from the street to his house, depending on where he is. Could be a substantial cost. So he's like, hey, thanks, Commissioner, right? I have to pay for this. So you want someone to help coordinate with that if you want to go down that route.
Yep. And this is fiber.
Yes, that's the best, the newest.
This is the newest, latest, and greatest. And like I say, economies of scale for business. If the money's not there for them to do it, why even bid on it, right? So that was something that just hit last week that I come across. So we've given letters of recommendation or letters of support for any broadband company that was coming to us, that yes, we want those grant dollars coming to Grant County, but there is not at this time any developer for that yet. But this is something that we wanted to include in there just to let you guys know that this could get the whole county if that company is awarded their grant. We got to have some skin in the game. So that's down in that one. I'll speak to the Salem interior as well, or exterior, I'm sorry. That's in there only because we're in the mix of possibly the possibility of actually selling that building. That building, we did a study back in 2021, I believe it was, where Halstead come in and did a study on the building. And that was going to cost us inside and outside somewhere around $3.5 to $4 million to fix up. There is a group that's forming that may be willing to take that building off of our hands and still allow us to have our central dispatch in the basement until we find another home for them. And and there would be no time limit on that. So rent-free, the whole 9 yards. I mean, they'd be paying for the electric, which is probably about $1,600 a month, I think I was seeing on some bills and stuff. So we're trying to figure out how we're going to squeeze this thing and actually make us some money. We don't have to appropriate that money for that building and things. So, but these are all preliminary type things right now. So I think the big elephant in the room, I think everybody would agree, is the jail design. And I guess I would like to know your thoughts on that as far as council members and things of what you see, because that's the elephant in the room. $4.5 million. That's over half of that money. I'd just kind of like to know what you guys are thinking.
That's a lot of money.
It is a lot of money. It is a lot of money.
It is, unfortunately. I suppose that there's a good thought to this that allows the county, we invest that money, goes to the end cost. So that comes off of whatever the end cost is. We put all that together, then we can actually say, this is what it looks like for us to have a building and beds and what it's going to cost, so that we can actually take it to the different companies and say, what will this cost us? And then we get to see exactly what a tax type of burden this would be on the community. And we really can't have it and know that for the future until we get past that point. Yep.
Just off the top of my head, and seeing what you just did, Mr. Bardsley, I guess it just concerns me of spending $4.5 million for a project that may not even happen. I mean, if we come back and then the burden is too look at this as immediate need, kind of an immediate need, short term, in the next year or two, you know, to something that the jail is obviously down the road. We have an immediate need we need to take care of with our jail. And it sounds like that there's some talks and some communication happening of how we can alleviate a little bit of pressure on the jail. You know, I look at even some of the things under the items to consider. You know, the broadband certainly is intriguing to me to be able to, you know, being in education and having kids the opportunity to be able to have that broadband in areas in the county that maybe they cannot get that. I see that as a real positive, maybe even over the jail design at this point in time. You know, but it's just me looking at immediate needs, something that you know, we could solve in the next year or two, even if it's jail maintenance. You know, just being able to provide more for that side. Just some things maybe that we can consider that's going to help us here short term.
Comments?
I will say that I'm very concerned about spending more and more money on the jail before we spend money on supporting the prosecutors and the public defenders in the courts. That's a partnership that if you get that system going and process the offenders better, they're not in the jail. So they're not bodies that have to be housed. I think we need to emphasize that.
Any other questions? Mr. Lemming, anything to add to the jail design, jail design discussion?
No, I guess, and maybe this is short-sightedness on my part, but I'm just thinking if we've spent time together looking at different jail things, wouldn't it be pertinent just to have them say, hey, we built this, let's just go look at it and see if this kind of matches our design, or is that not the same thing as designing the jail?
From what I understand, and maybe Connor can reaffirm what I think I'm saying, but as we were projected that by 2045, we would need a 558-bed jail. Can Grant County afford that? Can we deal with that issue? We know that we have over 1,000 felony warrants right now that aren't being served in Grant County because our jail is full. If we put the money in, the experts say this is what Grant County can handle, just for chance, let's say we only think we can do a 400 or a 450 bed jail with the possibility to add in the future, they're going to have to put that together as a package for us so that it can be bid out to say this is what it's going to cost you. And so there's a preparatory thing, and that's going to cost, time-wise, that could be a year to a year and a half just on that particular process while we still have overcrowding, and we're going to have to either alleviate pressure by sending inmates to other correctional facilities and pay for that and transportation. It's kind of one of those terrible, it's a continuing thing that is rolling, chasing its tail, and until we say, at least we're going to see how much this is going to cost us, I think we're going to continue to chase our tail. Did I say that properly about putting it out from how much it cost us?
Yes, and if you don't mind, Commissioner, I can touch on that too. You know, the jail design, I'm sure like many of you read the entire DLZ report. It was a lengthy one, but I read through it all, and you know, there are what Grant County will need in 20, 30 years, and then there's things that you can fix in the meantime. And I don't mean just by meantime as in, you know, just simple maintenance and repair, but maybe smaller options that meet Grant County's needs now, and maybe for the next 10, 15 years instead of 30 years. There's ways you can plan that, but none of that can happen without the design to take place. As you all know, you can, like I said, you can use this legally, these ARPA funds, to provide maintenance, repair services. That's more than permitted, or you could use it to pay for the design of it. The one thing I would caution everyone here is that it's a known issue. I think the council and the commissioners will agree that there needs to be something done with the jail, whether it's a high level of maintenance and repair or build a brand new one. Right now, and I can't remember which county specifically, but a county just west of here, it might have been Howard County or so, but the entities and organizations like the ACLU are more than willing to sue counties if there's overcrowding, if there's issues with, whether it's sewage in the jail, whether it's, poor security for your jail staff, whatever it is, they are more than willing to sue counties. And in fact, one of them right now is Allen County, where it's in federal court. The federal government, the ACLU is suing Allen County, and there's an issue with the county not wanting to fund it, so the federal judge is bringing those select council members and commissioners before her. I think it's like every 6 months, and I don't know about you, but that's not a good spot to be in front of a federal judge saying, why aren't you doing this, or that? And ultimately, if you get to the point where there is no resolution or no progress, the federal government can come in and say, Grant County, you haven't done whatever it is, whether it's repairs, maintenance, or build a new one. And here's what we're going to do. We're going to design a new jail for you to what they think you need, which they'll probably do the larger one, and say, here's what you're going to do. Here's the designs. Oh, by the way, you pay for everything. Figure it out. And that's not a good spot to be in for Grant County as elected officials or the taxpayers. And so I understand that the $4.5 million is a large chunk of change, but think of it, and again, I'm not advocating for the construction of it. I think something needs to be done. I think everyone here would agree, but $4.5 million to get a new design to ultimately construct a new jail is quite a bit less than being sued by the ACLU, to have the federal government to come in and say, hey, sorry about you, here's what it is, because they don't care how you pay for it. They just tell you to pay for it. And the people that pay for it, as you all know, are the people in this room, right? And so I would just advise, or strongly advise, that whatever the option is, whether it's a complete redo or maintenance or construct it, that would be a high priority, and that there is some kind of plan in action. Because one thing the ACLU will look to you as, if you can show you are making progress, substantial progress, in my experience, that has been enough to keep the lawsuit from being filed, if that makes sense. Is that, Commissioner Bartley, does that hit with what you're saying? I apologize for the long-winded response.
I'm just trying to get a good visualization of what we.
Inaction will end up causing Grant County more and exposing you to more liability than building a new jail or providing significant funds into maintenance or repair. I don't think, I'm not an engineer or construction person, but I can tell you that it sounds like whether it's repairs or maintenance or a new jail, it's going to be costly to do, which I know all of you are aware of. But it's a long-term investment for that.
So Mr. Connor kind of teed up what I wanted to kind of bring to everybody, and that's the reason we have this in public, so people can understand what's going on. If we don't do something, this is probably the only time that we're going to have that kind of money that we can go ahead and spend on a jail study. I don't think $4.5 million coming out of our budget is going to happen very often. So do we take the risk of being sued and the feds coming in and telling us how big a building that we build? Because that's what they're going to do. As long as we're in the running of trying to show them that we're trying to do something for us, then I think that's meeting the criteria of saying we're working on it. But as soon as we take this out of there, to me, I think the commissioners are all on board saying that this is probably money well spent at this time, because we do have it in these funds. But if we don't, then that's not going to be on the commissioners. That'll be on the council, because you didn't.
But I think something that Connor mentioned, the fact we do not have a listing of anything going towards jail maintenance. And we know if we decided today that we're going to build a new jail, it's 3 years down the road.
It is.
Yeah, yes, I believe so. Don't hold me to that.
Yes.
We need to maintain and take care of for the next 3 years.
Yep.
So, yeah, it would be easy if we do not include jail maintenance in this for a federal judge to look and say, you guys are doing nothing. That's exactly what we're doing. And there's no line item in there for jail maintenance. And there should be, regardless, even if we are building a new jail, there should be money going in here to take care of the jail and helping the sheriff and maintain that facility.
That's actually a really good point, because like you said, it is going to take several years, and you don't want to just say, hey, we have a plan and let the jail go, to get worse or whatnot. But I think it's, you look at it both at the same time, and either way, it's a large investment, but I think that's probably a fair way of looking at it. But I think, Commissioner, to your point too, something just needs to be done in order to make sure you mitigate your liability exposure.
So my understanding, listening to our sheriff, there's 3 possibilities: build a new jail, right? I think he's talked to a couple of your colleagues and told them the same story. I don't know if your colleagues have shared that with you or not, but and our sheriff's trying to put numbers, hard numbers together, so you have an opportunity to figure out those dollars. But one is build a new jail, which we don't know what that cost is until you do the study and put it out. Second thing is we fix the D home, right, to get rid of the overcrowding. My understanding it's somewhere probably around 10 million.
5 million at least.
5 million at least. That's mold remediation, that is heating and cooling things and stuff like that. So there's 5 million. I believe the sheriff, if my memory serves me correct, and we're all going to get some numbers on this, he's going to have to hire 26 more deputies. And he was just right in front of us saying he's still looking for 5. Trying to find people to work in this kind of environment is really rough. I can tell you that last week I saw coming through our office a claim where a officer had a bite mark on him like this. His head was bleeding, saw the pictures, and that's what our officers are up against now. It wasn't because of any structural type thing. It wasn't because the damage in the jail or a door didn't get locked, but that does happen quite frequently because it's old. We're getting parts from some place in San Antonio, I think it is, that's a prison or an old jail, and that's where we're buying parts because they don't make the parts anymore. And so, when we talk about maintenance and things like that, yeah, we can do some stuff, but it's not, how long do we kick the can down the road? And I know there's a bond out there. I don't know who all was on that at the time. Mark, you might have not been on that. But where there was a bond that said the jail should last until this time or something like that. Mr. Scott, you probably know about that, right? Do you know anything about that? Mr. Connor, do you know anything about that? Okay, so
We've got a bond that we can pay off in 2027, but we can't pay it off prior. I think that's one that was concerning some of the council. I think it's a bond that we couldn't even touch because at one point we talked about, well, let's use ARPA and pay it off early, and then we found out that we can't do anything till 2027.
So are you talking about the latest jail bond?
Yes, the one that we're paying now, the one that we're paying now.
Yes.
Okay, and so, so it's one of those things where, probably the company that came in and said this is going to last to this year and stuff like that, and I get that. I mean, how many times has a car salesman come in and sold you something and it wasn't what you wanted, right? Or it didn't last as long as they said it was going to last. But in the same token, I mean, we're just really at flux of what to do with the jail. And to me, if we drop this, it does open us up for a suit. And that's my take. And then the other thing, and Sheriff stepped back in. I don't know if he'd want to kind of help us out, just to understand some numbers maybe a little bit more to help us out. That would be awesome. Thanks, Sheriff.
Thank you. Just a few things. As a sheriff, I'm just a facilitator of information. The decision is the council and the commissioners to decide what you're going to do. We are a steward of the jail. Whatever you give us to work with, that's what we're going to work with. But from our view, we have about 4 options on dealing with the jail. Obviously, building a new jail. Some stumbling blocks to that is obviously the cost. It's going to be very expensive. And then you have the issue of possible remonstrance if the citizens wanted to go down that route. Another option that's been made known is the D-home. That's to fix the current D-home for overflow. Currently, we have about 46 beds in the D-home. The D-home was designed to house juveniles, so the cells are a lot smaller. We could get a exemption from the state to put another bed in there for a short period of time to increase the number of beds for us to send some of the overflow. Some of the stumbling blocks for that, obviously, is going to cost anywhere from $1 million to $5 million to fix that, to make that happen. It would only be a short-term solution, because once we move our overcrowded or people over there, doesn't mean that our current jail isn't going to become overcrowded again. Increased staffing is going to take about 24 new staff members to man that facility. And when you're talking about salaries and benefits, it's about $1.9 million roughly a year to pay salary and benefits for them. We would also have to increase our medical services over there, and also our food services. We'd have to expand those areas. But that is an option that we could do. The third option is house inmates at other facilities, and that's something that we've currently been looking at doing. That's going to cost us, if we move, we're estimating we have to move around 80 to 85 individuals to other facilities. To do that, it'd be $40 a day at the lowest end, could be up to $55 a day. So to pay for them would be about $1.3 million per year just to house them. That does not include medical. So what happens is, when you're in jail, the county is responsible for medical care. So anytime we send someone to the hospital, we have to pay for it out of our budget. We had an individual in our jail that had cancer. We were paying about $3,000 a month for medication for him. We were able to get him out, and on home detention, we were able to work something out with the courts. But that is an unknown cost once we start moving inmates to other jails, what that medical cost is going to be. Obviously, we would need a line item in the budget to help pay for that, because we currently do not have one. We would need at least 2 additional staffing for transport, because we have to remember, when we move 80 plus out of Grant County, we now have to transport them from their current facility or the facility where they will be placed for their court date. So we'll have to go around picking them up and transporting them for court. One of the things that we would do to try to minimize that, we would put people or transfer people that have already been sentenced. We believe that would kind of help out with that. But we don't really have the hard numbers. Our staff is currently working on those hard numbers on how many people we could actually do that for. So we would have to increase that. That would be about $160,000 or so for salaries to do that. We would also need probably another transport van to make that happen. A big, I think, hurdle for the transporting or the placement of inmates is going to be finding locations. We currently have 3 individuals that we put in Tipton jail just for safety reasons and involved a homicide. We were concerned for their safety, so we had to move them out. And it was hard to find a location for them. We have 1 individual we're trying to place. We've called all the surrounding counties, which you have to remember, Grant County touches 9 other counties. And so far, we haven't been able to find a location for her. So what that would mean is we'd have to go further out to house inmates. Can be done, we can do it. It's just going to require a more logistical effort to get them to and from court. Just like with the juveniles right now, we'll have juveniles that are placed in Clark County and some southern counties, and we have guys that are leaving at 3 a.m. in the morning to go pick them up on Monday so that they can have them here in court by 9 or 10. So now when you expand that to even more people, then that obviously becomes more of a challenge for us. And then we would need someone to be able to coordinate those things. So those are kind of the 3 options. There's also a 4th option, obviously. It's not do anything, just leave things as is. And unfortunately, that will probably lead to a lawsuit. I know I've talked to the sheriff in Howard County. I think they just got sued. I know Allen County has gotten sued. Wabash County built their facility after being sued. And they just tell me it's not a pleasant thing for the sheriff or the commissioners once they get sued. So we do have options, and those are options that I give to you guys to decide on what you want to do. Like I stated before, we're going to work with whatever you give us. If you tell us we're going to keep things as is. We're going to do our best to continue to try to get our numbers down, which we do on a daily basis. We're going to continue to be creative and think outside the box to try to minimize and get our numbers down. But those are the options. If you know of any other options that you can think of, we'll be more than glad to look into them and see what we can come up with. But those are about the only things. I'll answer any questions that you may have.
If you remember what our staffing needs were, if we did build a 500-bed jail?
Well, if you build it to the current standards, which is a pod system, which is different than what we currently have. Right now, we have what they call a dorm system, which requires more personnel. From studies that I've seen, the number of staffing you would need is maybe a little bit less than what the dorm system would be. And that would depend on what you want to do, what type of programs you want to have for the inmates, if you want to have addiction-type programs, GED programs to try to help them out. That could determine the number of staff. But I think with what we currently have, we definitely would be able to take care of that facility.
500 inmate in a pod, we have fewer staff than 350 or 270 or 300.
We could, yes. It would depend on the programming.
Just to let you know, Mike, we actually went to, it was Hendricks County. We were standing in their control room, 2 people looking with their peripheral vision in all the cells, and they had the same population that 2 people were watching as we had in the entire jail.
Like with our current D-home is made up in the pod system. So you could get away with less staffing. The issue we would run into is that we'd be running 2 facilities. And that's why we would need the additional 24 to cover the 4 crews that would be working if we did the updates to the D-home.
So just because I mentioned this earlier, I don't believe you were in, or Mark might have mentioned it. Current outstanding warrants for arrest in Grant County is what?
We have around 1,200 outstanding warrants, both misdemeanor and felony warrants. I did talk to a couple council members, and it's my view as a sheriff is that we're going to have our guys do their job. I'm not going to ask our guys not to do their job, not to arrest people that need to be arrested, and not to put people in jail that need to be in jail. Our job is public safety, and we're going to make sure that the citizens of Grant County are safe. So if an individual has a warrant, we're going to serve that warrant. We're going to hold them accountable. Because you have to remember, not only is there a warrant for that individual, there's also a victim in that case. And we want to make sure that those people are held accountable. So we're going to continue to do our job, and that is to keep citizens of Grant County safe. So, but yeah, we do have right around 1,200, 12 to 1,500 warrants, active warrants, both between, that's Grant County, all the surrounding agencies, and MPD.
And so those warrants can be anything from not paying their child support
Correct.
to what? When is
Robberies,
when is a guy or
burglaries.
gal bad enough to say, I'm going to go after that person?
I mean, it can be anywhere from a minor misdemeanor, B misdemeanor, to level 3, level 4 felony. I mean, I'd have to have our staff look at it and see exactly what's out there. But we have looked at the numbers, and there's roughly around 1,200 warrants.
So a lot of mental health issues right now, correct?
Yes.
That's what's driving a lot of this into the jail, because there's no mental health place to put them, correct?
Correct. The problem we run into with mental health is that there are short-term programs for people that have minor mental health issues, but that's not the ones that we're seeing in our jail. The ones we're seeing in our jail are people that have, that require long-term care. And when the state cut back on mental health facilities in the state, they send them back to the local areas. So we'll have individuals in our jail that have a lot of mental issues that are causing a lot of problems. So they're the ones, we had one guy that caused 70% of our workman's comp claim, because every time he would deal with them, he was fighting. So we were able to work with the courts to get him to a state mental health facility, but that's difficult to do. However, we were able to do that.
So I guess the way I'm looking at this is, the violent things that's going on in our community, whether it's kids shooting each other and causing death, the overdoses and stuff like that, we're sending a message, honestly. If we aren't trying to get tough on crime, it's okay. You can have 1,500 warrants out for arrest.
I don't think building a new jail sends the message that we're tough on crime. I think if you want to send a message that we're tough on crime, you find the program that's going to deal with the issues that we have in Grant County first.
I would agree with that.
93% of those who are in the detention, or in jail right now are pre-trial detention. If you go on what Mr. Connor mentioned earlier, that is a severe issue that we have in front of us.
And so I would echo that totally, because my understanding, the prosecutor is working 2 or 2.5 deputy prosecutors short. Is that correct? Why is that? Why?
Can't get people to come to Grant County, Indiana for this kind of salaries that we're able to pay.
And that's the whole crux, right?
We
So,
increase their salary to $80,000 and we still cannot hire.
so these kids in law are coming out with $200,000 and $300,000 in debt out of law school, and they're going to come to work for how much? $80,000 a year, when they can go into private practice and make a lot more money, right?
Or go to a distribution center.
Right? So that's, to me, that's an issue. And it's been like that for quite some time now. This Mr. Hunt did not, our prosecutor did not cause this issue. This issue has been gone for a long time because we weren't paying our people enough to get people in here. And again, it kind of falls back onto the council. Would you agree with that or not? No? Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Wright, I do want to touch on the adjudication portion, because that is a big problem. I mean, we're not getting our inmates in through the court system, which has caused a problem with overcrowding. So the issue is just not one thing. It's a multitude of things that has caused this problem. And we do need to get that fixed, because if we don't, we could build a 500-person bed jail and be overcrowded again. So we have to fix the whole system. It's just not the one item that needs to be addressed. The whole system needs to be addressed.
It does.
So once we do that, then I think we'd definitely be in a better place. But I do know that those are the options that we see right now as a sheriff's office. And like I said before, obviously, we're going to do what we can with whatever you guys give us. But unfortunately, I have the easiest part out of the process. I just give you the information. You guys decide whether one needs to be built, and the council has the toughest part. And I don't envy you for that, because you have to decide if we are going to build one, how do we pay for it? So anything that we can do, the sheriff's office, to get you information, or if you have ideas, let us know, and we'll be more than happy to work with you guys on that.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Thank you.
All right. Anything else, gentlemen, before we move on?
I guess I will add a clarifying point to that 4.5. So the jail design is based on and Dale Davis from Envoy's online too, he can correct me if I'm wrong, but it's based on a percentage of the total spend of the project. And that 4.5 is based on an $80 million jail.
That's exactly correct, and thank you for that, Justin. We are assuming a value based on the DLZ study, but we're not necessarily saying that that is the facility that the community needs. We would need to start the design process to engage financial professionals to understand what the community really can afford as a top line number. Right now, with us controlling the design, we have that flexibility. So that number, if we decided a $60 million facility was the correct path, then that number could come down. But this is based on that current study and our population trends there in the facility.
Isn't that a number we can come up with first, of what our burden would actually be, what we can afford? I mean, don't we have people, a Darren Bates or whoever it may be that can tell us?
I think you can come up with formulas on what our current rates are, but the process we're looking at, we have to know pretty much the ballpark cost of the unit. We're going to all say that's the right unit for us to move forward with. once we start getting then the vendors to say it's going to cost this, this, and this, we put that together and then say, can the taxpayers actually carry that load? And do we want to carry that load?
It's just me. I struggle with that thought because if we're going to expend all of this money and come up with a proposal that looks good to all of us, we cannot afford, and then we're going to have to go back and we're going to change all of that. Whereas if we know the number in front of us right away, we can inform Envoy or whoever it is, we have $80 million to spend, we have $50 million, we have $100 million, whatever that amount is, here's what we can afford, design the jail that's going to fit this amount.
I understand that logic completely, Mike. The one thing is, we may say we have, let's arbitrarily throw out $60 million. We have $60 million, and that gets us in today's prices, that gets us a 300-bed jail. We're already at 330 or 40 on average. So in some ways, I think we have to say we have to have this much minimum and then get the picture of the cost so we can say, can the taxpayers afford that debt? And we may say, no, we can't.
Has there been, I don't sure if you know this, have we looked into pretrial detention facilities and how that would look? Is there such a thing as a pretrial detention facility that maybe solves our glaring problem that we have in front of us? We would do it for much cheaper than building a prison jail.
Yeah, we've looked at some pretrial things like the individual with cancer that I mentioned. We actually got him put on home detention. Community Corrections has they're the ones that run that, any type of home detention type program. They're the ones that run that, so we have to go through them to make that happen. Now, the individual that with cancer didn't meet their criteria. However, due to the cost, the judge went ahead and overruled what they were wanting to do and went ahead and placed. In fact, we've had two that we've done that with. One that was a severe alcoholic that we were paying, I want to say $3,000 or $4,000 a month for her medication, and we were able to do the same thing with her. So we are looking at programs to do that and looking to expand that. In fact, today, my director of detention is meeting with an organization here in the county of possibly partnering with them to try to get some of our low-level offenders to their facility with the monitor type program. So we are looking at those things to do, just we don't have anything in place other than what is currently in place with community corrections. And like I said, a lot of the people that are in jail have already failed their criteria to be able to participate in their program.
So how do you envision this committee moving forward? Is this something you see us from the council as a committee of having our meetings and kind of looking through this list? And then do you have a committee of one, and then your committee of one meet with our committee of three? Kind of what's the thoughts moving forward?
I'll speak to that. First of all, thanks for coming. I think this is what we really need to kind of get down to and just figure out, because this is in front of us like a freight train, and I don't want to be hit by it. And so I think this is a great start. I think maybe taking this back to your colleagues at your next council meeting. I know it sounds like a long way away, December, and I think when Connor and I was at the meeting and stuff, and somebody said, let's address this in November. Oh, no, we got to figure out what we're going to do. And so I'm glad we're getting an early start on this, because again, going back to Mr. Connor's comments about Ms. Jarvis, there's a lot of paperwork that we got to make sure is spot on. We shouldn't lose $1 of this money, and we stand a chance of doing that if we don't take some action. So that's the number one thing. No matter how we spend it, I want to make sure we spend it here, because it's going to go to someplace else. I know people say, hey, this is our money and stuff. Well, if we don't spend our money, guess what? Somebody else is going to spend our money at their location. And so I want to make sure that that doesn't happen, if that makes sense. And I just want to make sure that we're on the ball and not waiting last minute and procrastinating, and then all of a sudden we're there. That's my take. if that makes sense. So,
I appreciate the list that you provided for us.
I think this is a wish list
Yeah.
for us. And so that's for you to take back to your colleagues and get a feel on thumbs up or thumbs down on these things.
and again, if there's some massaging to that you guys wanted, I mean, honestly, when it comes right down to it, you guys are holding the purse strings.
I don't know if I'm the chair of this committee or how this is working, but.
You're turning into it.
You got it. You got it. I think the other two went ahead and voted it. Mark, would you?
With seeing that, is there somebody I need to report back to, or the three of you?
I think you've kind of been on top of this a little bit.
I've really been in these numbers with Justin and stuff, and again, we really can't, as a three, that's the reason we're doing this publicly today, so people have an opportunity to see how this works, right? And between two forms of government, right? It's a good thing, right? That our people are seeing that there's transparency in what we're trying to do. And so I'd be more than happy to be that point if you two.
That's
You know my situation, so.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, right. So I was
I
just
agree.
voted too, Mr. Scott. Right, yep.
So just keep
yeah.
in mind, I guess, the commissioners' next meeting is on the 20th, and I believe the council is on the 21st. So do I need to submit a letter requesting to be on the agenda for the commissioners, or how do you want that to
Or do
work?
you just want to have it on your agenda and,
Yeah, I'll report back to Mr. Middlesworth. and
Okay.
Communicate that out to
okay?
how that's going to work.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Yep. That is the end of the new business. Gentlemen, do you have anything else at this time before we move on to?
I don't. Other than my bladder's not good.
Yeah, we're going to make this quick, so.
I just want to say 12 minutes.
I do have something that, before we move on to public comments, there's something I want to bring up, and I'd like for my colleagues to consider. It's regarding solar. There's been some things, come up to my attention as far as like setbacks, how our setbacks are in relation to our neighboring counties. So I have something here that I would just like to read for your guys' consideration. At this time, I would like to bring forth a 6-month moratorium on solar projects in Grant County, providing an extended period for residents to share their perspectives. This decision aims to foster a comprehensive dialogue and ensure that the community's concerns and opinions are thoroughly considered. I feel community feedback and collaboration is important and in the best interest of Grant County at this time. Gentlemen, do you have any questions or discussions regarding that? I would like to take a look at Madison counties a little bit more in depth, Delaware counties. I've done a 10,000-foot flyover on those. I haven't gotten the weeds on those. As you guys know, we got a letter from the town of Fowlerton regarding the State Road 26 and the I-69 development, or the area out there. When I first ran, I was under the impression that, I talked to Fairmount. Fairmount said that they could not provide utilities out there. Talked to Upland, they said the same. And this is me dropping the ball. I didn't even think about Fowlerton. I did not. So I say that just because there's some things that's come up, and I would really like for us to consider that, for you to take that into consideration and consider that 6-month moratorium.
Well, before you did that, I can tell you I was already leaning towards that, but I do have some concerns that I just want to bring out.
Sure.
When it comes to the 450 and 500-foot setbacks, I just want everybody to understand, when you do that, the footprint of the project becomes larger, and it's going to be affecting more people. Because economies of scale, these companies are going in, and I'll talk about that in just a minute, coming in and actually leasing more land than what they need. And that's to make sure that they've got the land to do the project that they need. My understanding, each one of them needs somewhere around 1,000 acres. And that's if all of them come, which I don't think they will. That's my take. But if we do go to a larger footprint, or a larger setback, I just want us to all understand what we're doing here is causing more people an effect, because this footprint of this project gets bigger. My next question is who's responsible for that 450 to 500 foot setback? Is that still the property owner? Is that the solar company who's maybe leased that land, or are they going to lease that land? And oh, by the way, the people who are going to lose revenue off of that land of 450 feet setback, what are they thinking? One of the other things that we had talked about is the states recommended, and I don't know this, but I'm going to find out. Again, this is give us time to do a little bit more work. When it comes to their setback, it's 250 feet. I don't know if that's from the property line. I don't know if that's from a structure. So I need to find that out, because as we know, ours is 50 foot from the property line or 300 foot from a structure. So I want to find that out just a little bit more. But how much money, because the state has said that they will give counties revenue if we follow their guidelines. I don't know how much that revenue is. I'd like to dig into that just a little bit more. I did meet, this past Monday, a week from today, this past week, I did meet with the gentleman I've been talking out on Lawson Road, who was going to be cornered on 3 sides of his home. Beautiful home, probably a $300,000 home, $100,000 pole barn, beautiful home, seriously. And he was going to be surrounded by 3 sides. So he was very, very concerned. And so I found out who the solar company was, and I met them there. And the engineer and the representative was there from the solar company, a company called Apex. And so I shared with them my concerns about this particular individual and what can they do for that individual if they are going to be boxed in on 3 sides. Well, the gal who was the rep said, well, the homeowner talking to that person said, you're probably relieved that this is not going to be part of our project. They were able to acquire more land over on the other side. They couldn't acquire the grid. They couldn't get enough on this side to tie them all together. So that particular home is not going to be affected. And there will be homes affected, but this individual. But one thing I did walk away from that is that that's the reason they get more than the 1,000 acres that they need, is because they want to be a good neighbor. And how do we be a good neighbor to those homes that's non-participating in this? They also said that if there's non-participating people in that area, that there could be, the word could be, financial, I don't want to say assistance, but financial gain for those company who is going to be surrounded by 3. Don't know what those dollars are. Is it $100 a year, $1,000 a year, $10,000? I don't know what that is. Don't have a clue. So I'd like to dig into that just a little bit more. And then when it comes to the land, I talked about that, the engineers, these were the things I just wanted to kind of talk about. I think I've hit all my things, but I do go back and say, you know, when it comes to the 450 foot to 500 foot setback, who's in charge of taking care of that? I'm no farmer, so I don't know how a combine fits within a 450 foot strip. I don't know if it's worth their time to go ahead and plant corn in that area, which would even give a little bit better buffer for those homes. Don't know. I don't know if it's worth their time to do that or what, but I'd like to dig into that just a little bit more. So that's kind of where I'm at.
These are all great questions, and I believe that this 6-month moratorium gives us time to check into that and then some.
And then I also, I know we've been asked to have another community meeting. I'd be more than happy to do that in this time frame as well, within the 6 months.
Yep.
And just kind of listen. but I also want to bring in some experts on both sides of the aisle to kind of share with us some things and possibly take a look at things in a little different light of what it can mean for our community. So I agree. That's my take.
I've had the Madison County ordinance, haven't gotten the actual Delaware County one. In talking with a couple of their commissioners, they've put a cap on there, but it's not a real, in my opinion, true cap. And that's something that we've talked with some of our folks about is, are you willing to cap this? Are you willing to do a couple things? And I don't have a problem with that. The Delaware County one, actually, it says, I think right now, 5,000 acres is all that they'll use, but if the landowners and the companies come back and petition them, they'll open it up for more. I'm not necessarily interested in doing that.
Right.
If we're going to do a cap, this is it, because the grid can only hold so much anyway.
Right.
So I'm not opposed to a moratorium for 6 months to actually get information about what the state is offering and what we have compared to what the state's saying.
So one point about a cap, and I've heard this, do we have a cap on anything else in our county?
I can't say that we do.
So what gives us a right to put a cap? I don't know. I mean, those are questions, and I think those are things that we got to dig into a
I
little
think
bit
Noble
stronger and
County
stuff.
did a cap on theirs, and I don't know if it's been tested in court, but that would be another thing I think we should follow up on as well.
Yeah.
I'll entertain a motion for a 6-month moratorium on the solar projects here in Grant County.
So moved.
I have a motion by Commissioner Wright.
I'll second it.
Have a begrudging second by Mr. Bardsley. Motion by Mr. Wright, support with Mr. Bardsley. All those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. So moved. So we will move on to the public comment portion of the meeting here. Guys, we're on 2 hours and 15 minutes. We will do some public comments, but I am asking that we be very brief and to the point, if you don't mind. So we do have other things to get to this afternoon. So at the time, the public is invited to speak before the board. Please approach the podium when recognized by the president. State your name, address, concerns, or comments. No complaints, accusations, or name-calling regarding personnel will be allowed during this public discussion time. A time limit of 3 minutes will be given. If more than one person is represented for the group, only one spokesperson will be heard. It is expected that professionalism and courtesy be displayed at all times during the public comments portion of the meeting.
Myron Brankle.
Morning. Hi, Mr. Brankle.
Good morning. Address 5450 East, 550 North, Van Buren. Third generation farmer. One thing before I get into, well, I'll make this real quick. 3 or 4 months ago, we'd asked if you commissioners would make a honor to us that you wouldn't take solar money for your reelection. Commissioner Steve, you said you wouldn't. Commissioner Ron, you said you wouldn't because you're on our side. Mr. Bardsley, we have never got an answer from you.
Can I, before you?
Sure.
So, Mr. Brankle, I'm going to go ahead and let Mr. Bardsley speak to that, but after this, I would like for this to be the last discussion, questions that we have regarding elections, campaign, funding. In my opinion, this is a county meeting to discuss county business. It's not a question and answer session for political candidates. You did bring this up a while back, so I will allow Mr. Bardsley to go ahead and answer if he would like to. But then after that, these guys are very accessible. Their phone numbers are very accessible, email. If anybody has questions, specific questions regarding their campaign, how the election's going, things like that, I would ask that you just reach out to them personally about it. So.
Legally, as I've talked with some attorneys about it, I will parrot the same thing that Mr. Stewart has. It's really not appropriate to, in a public session, in my opinion, wrestle with election issues. But I will say for the record that I have not asked nor will receive direct funds from any solar companies. It's just that simple.
You have not.
Have not asked nor will receive.
You will not receive.
I will not, I have not asked nor received direct funds from any solar company.
Okay, I'll move on. What about our meeting? Taxpayer meeting with the commissioners. We need to have a meeting with you. There's a lot of questions out here, a lot of confusion, and
We'll work on that.
still going to work on it?
Yep. That's, to be honest with you, Mr. Brinkle, that's probably my fault. I haven't gotten with, I need to talk to Justin on that, get that arranged, and I haven't addressed it over the last couple of
Okay.
weeks.
And if you were listening to me, I mentioned it.
Yeah.
So we will have it.
We will definitely have it here in the next few months.
Okay.
And it'd be at a large enough space where enough people want to come,
All
they've
right,
got the
that
space.
sounds good.
But we've got to call it because that is Indiana code.
That's Indiana code?
It is.
Yeah, we need a copy of that, if you'll get it to us. Also,
It's online.
on the, Commissioner Steve, you mentioned before you made the motion for draft 4 that you was going to vote for draft 4. You were a rookie commissioner. You just come on. And you said because CIE won't need much corn because they're going electric vehicles, and it's going to cut down on the need for ethanol and corn. Well, EV has failed, as we all know, it's over with, same as. And wind, they filed bankruptcy, and it's coming to an end. And the Epic Times, if any of you get the Epic Times, 2 or 3 weeks ago, on the front page, it's talking about solar on farm ground, and talking about eminent domain. And the issue, if you read it, it said that they're pushing, the solar companies and this administration is pushing solar for the simple reason, if they can establish on a county, they can go anywhere they want to go with eminent domain. And the farmer, homeowner, or anybody has nothing to say about it. So that's what's behind all this. And anyway, one of our solar gals said that at one of our small meetings, we met with her over in Matthews, that she wasn't working for the government. Well, she is working for the government. The government's all behind this. And this is a way to confiscate the land from the ownership, private ownership. We see what this has happened. You see what this administration's doing. Everything, they're taking everything good in America away from Americans. And that's exactly what the solar companies, which is backed by the government, are doing to us, or trying to do to us.
We'll take that under advisement into this
Yeah.
moratorium. Anything else? We need to move along, Mr. Brinkle.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning or
Morning.
afternoon.
Hello, Eric.
Eric Wright, 81 East, 1050 South, Fairmount. I want to thank you, all three, for voting for the 6-month moratorium. I think that'll kind of give us time to pause a little bit and just revisit that. One thing I want to talk to you about on caps, Steve, we've talked about that before.
Yep.
Excuse me. And I think it's something to consider. It might be considered a compromise. Some counties are obviously looking at caps. You're still not going to have happy people, but you might have less unhappy people with a cap. But when it comes to caps, government does have caps. How many liquor license can you have in a county? You know, those are type of other caps that we may not be looking at. Just kind of give you an example. So just wanted to say thank you and just wanted to throw that point out.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else at this time?
Cale Grindle, Jonesboro. Ron, thank you. You killed almost everything I wanted to say up here, but that was the goal. So we got this moratorium. That's what we're wanting. Thanks to all of you, really, for giving us the time to properly look into this. This isn't just a small deal, as you know. It's worth taking the time to look into. Steve, I saw you at the Congresswoman's thing last weekend. She had made a mention that she wanted to meet with you guys. I wondered if she had reached out to you guys to just, not specifically for solar, but talk in general. Have you heard, did you happen to hear from her?
I talked to her after.
That I'm nibbing. Where'd it go?
Is she on? It sounded like her. I talked to her after the meeting. And, I saw your post saying that I was scared of you talking to her and stuff like that.
You kind of looked like it.
Not scared of you.
I'm not
Just tell you
scared of
that.
you.
Yeah. And so, everybody's got a right to talk to their congressperson. You know what I'm saying? So that doesn't bother me at all. I'm just trying to figure out what's the best for our community.
I
with
meant
all the things.
in a commissioner setting.
Well, I was a commissioner talking to her and things like that, and that's a conversation between her and I, and there really wasn't anything said about it. If you're asking me, did she ask me to not do solar? No, she did not.
No, I'm not expecting that.
Right? So I don't know what you're looking for
I
as an answer.
just curiosity more
But I
than
did
anything.
talk to her after the meeting, and she mentioned that she had talked to you and things, and I shared with her my side. You got your side, I got my side and stuff, and that was about it.
Yeah, no, I wasn't asking anything specific. I was just curious if she actually did reach out to you guys to talk.
I talked to her afterwards.
Okay. Steve, last meeting you made an interesting comment about why farmers didn't just buy more land that they needed to stay afloat. I'm a farmer. I started my own farm about 8 years ago from literally nothing. My parents weren't farmers. My grandparents were, but quit before I was born. So kind of wondering if you might be willing to expand on that more. I mean, it seems like an interesting comment because it's like saying, for a poor person, why don't you just make more money? Or a homeless guy, why don't you just buy a house kind of thing?
No, what I was referring to, several of the younger farmers had come and said they're multi-generational farmers. That's what I heard. I heard that from a lot of, and again, the being on the take and things like that, and that wasn't what I heard at that meeting. What I heard was we had some proud farmers, young farmers, who really want to try to figure out how they can continue. And honestly, with the things that we heard up front, when we first started this whole conversation, China, we're supporting China. We're using slave labor for all the panels. You might as well put down your fork because you're never going to eat again. I mean, those were the things in that meeting. I heard young farmers saying, I don't know how I'm going to make it. That's a whole different thing. Now, you may not think that, but that's what we were being spoon-fed at the front of this whole thing, was the conspiracy theories of everything. Now I've got guys coming in front of me. In fact, I've got a meeting, 2 meetings this Wednesday, I believe it is, where I'm meeting with 2 people. And one's got a home, the other one's got a farm. And I'm going to meet with them and talk to them and stuff like that, because when we're in a public setting, it's hard to say anything because everybody wants to talk over you. Fortunately, today, because we've taken action, we don't get that, right? And so what we're trying to do is try to figure this all out and at least express why we're doing what we're doing. And I appreciate those one-on-ones that I have. I shared with you the guy that was going to be boxed in. I'm glad that he is not going to be boxed in, right? But if we keep on expanding this thing to make it bigger and the footprint bigger, somebody's going to be. And to keep the revenue out of our community, and I know I come back to that a lot. I just got it. You heard the jail discussion today. How do we pay for that? That's what I got to figure out as a commissioner.
Well, that's the last thing I wanted to say,
Let's talk.
to mention about that. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
On that subject, I understand your situation being up against multiple lawsuits, but as far as my opinion on it, I think it's complete bullshit that if we're wanting to bring in the solar people in order to pay for jail, I think that is disingenuous, that we as the community are being punished with solar to pay for a jail that the vast majority of us will never use. And I know you got a tough row to hoe here in looking for that funding, but that funding shouldn't come from us.
So you're okay with letting the bad guys out and letting them run the streets? Because that's what I'm hearing you say, that you don't want to be a part of.
Did I say that?
fix.
No, you didn't.
Now, listen,
I don't think I saw it.
hey, this is the type of thing that we're talking about, okay?
Let
I'm done.
him finish.
I'm done.
Anything else?
No, that's all.
Thank you, Kel.
It's terrible, Myron.
I'll take one more.
Just real quick, Jackie Sheets,
We're
Southern Grant
taking, we're
County.
taking too long, so.
About the jail, 4.5 million, does that even start to build at all?
No.
So you're just throwing that to some paperwork? Throwing it to paperwork? 4.5 million?
Well, that's not, we're not throwing it to paperwork, but go ahead.
Okay, well,
that's not
anyway,
correct.
you're not even starting to build a building with that money at all. So the gentleman that was sitting here, he's got his act together. He knows what he's talking about. Y'all need to listen to him. Thank you.
Thank you. Real quick,
Just no.
this is it.
Michael Spalding, 7895 West North 00 South. I respect you guys and thank you for doing the moratorium. I'm one of the gentlemen that's going to be meeting with Steve to sit down and have a personal conversation Wednesday about things that are going on, and I appreciate you setting time aside to do that with me. I don't really have anything to speak about on the solar topic now that the moratorium is in place. I would just ask that maybe somehow we can come up with a reliable platform for members of the community to communicate legitimate concerns about their property or the ordinance itself. I'm not into the whole conspiracy theory stuff, and those aren't legitimate concerns to me. As a property owner and it going 50 feet off of my backyard, that's a legitimate concern. So if there was a solid platform that we know you're going to read it and we're going to get a response as individuals to our individual concerns, I would really appreciate that. I don't know how to do that, but there's got to be a way. Back to the money, as far as the $8 million or whatever it is you have to spend, I have something to say about that. And the fire township radios. You guys had that as a consideration. And, you mentioned in your prayer about the structure fires and people, we had a big one in Matthews, and one of the biggest things one of the biggest hurdles on site, on that scene, was communications. We had one over in Converse, a pole barn burn, huge issue. Converse and Marion and all the other fire departments that haven't been able to fund 800 megahertz radios, us safely communicating with guys that are inside in fire, we can't do it. And these are volunteer departments. We don't have a budget to afford that stuff. I'm president and deputy chief at Swayze Volunteer Fire Department. We've spent over $42,000 on radios in the last 18 months, and we still don't have all of our trucks outfitted with them or enough to operate all of our people that are in and out of buildings on a scene. It is imperative, I'm serious, that you guys move that up, that $325,000, move it up so that these departments and these men that are going in trying to save these structures and save people's lives can communicate with each other. And I'm willing to sit down and explain to you and show you on paper, walk you through a scene and every step of what we do on a scene of these fires that have happened here recently, and show you how the communication barrier broke down just because of lack of radios. And these departments can't afford them. They just can't. And you guys have the opportunity to resolve that for us.
Thank you.
Thanks.
The next Commissioners' meeting will be Tuesday, February 20th. I believe that Monday is President's Day. So we will meet Tuesday, February 20th. We are in recess.